Russian Marines tried to capture the village of Shakhove, northeast of Pokrovsk on Thursday, and failed, dramatically. But the attack, involving 22 armored vehicles from the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, hinted at new tactics that, with better timing and a little luck, could help the Russians break through around Pokrovsk as their wider war on Ukraine grinds into its 44th month. The Russians made several surprising moves as they prepared two separate columns with T-80B VM tanks and BTR-82A wheeled infantry fighting vehicles laden with infantry. In the days leading up to the Thursday morning assault, the Russian Marines set up observation posts around their base in the village of Malinivka, 9 kilometers south of Shakhove. The goal, according to the Ukrainian 1st Avoz Corps, was to detect and shoot down Ukraine's night-flying heavy bomber drones, preventing them from dropping mines on the likeliest assault routes between Malinivka and Shakhove. At the same time, the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, one of 5 Marine brigades and regiments the Kremlin rushed to Donetsk Oblast this summer to bolster the center grouping of forces' faltering effort to capture Pokrovsk and clear a path toward the twin cities of Kramatorsk and Sloviansk tried to hide its T-80S and BTR-82s. Both types are still in production at factories in Russia, but production of new vehicles isn't keeping up with vehicle losses. Every tank and fighting vehicle is precious, especially as the winter mud deepens and strictly footborne assaults become impractical all along the 1,100-kilometer front line. Normally, a Russian assault column would assemble in a base, such as Malinivka, and roll out the morning of a planned attack, ideally under the cover of fog or an overcast sky. But that predictable deployment pattern risks drawing heavy Ukrainian fire. To mitigate the risk, the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade sent some of its vehicles out into the tree lines around Malinivka on Wednesday, the 15th of October, the day before the assault. The maneuver was unsuccessful, the 1st Avoz Corps reported. 2 units of armored vehicles were detected by reconnaissance and destroyed by artillery and first-person view drones of the Unmanned Systems Forces before they even tried to hide in the forest. Meanwhile, enough of Ukraine's heavy bomber drones got past the Russian observation posts to drop their mines along the roads between Malinivka and Shakhove. Thanks to the advanced engineering equipment of the positions, effective mining and coordinated actions of the units of the defense forces of Ukraine, primarily artillery crews of the brigades of the armed forces and the National Guard of Ukraine, as well as the crews of the Unmanned Systems Forces, the enemy attack was thwarted, the 1st Avoz Corps boasted. The Corps hit 13 vehicles, destroying 9 of them and sending the rest scurrying back to their dugouts. They even didn't reach the front line, Ukrainian drone operator Kriegsforscher observed. The weather was a critical factor. Low clouds can prevent the safe operation of drones. But the sky was clear enough on Wednesday and Thursday for Ukraine to fly lots of bomber drones to drop mines, and surveillance drones to surveil Malinivka and the surrounding tree lines. Conditions could favor the Russians the next time they attack. Overall, we have terrible weather, Kriegsforscher reported. And that will help them advance, he added. Combined with fog or low clouds, the new counter-drone and dispersal tactics the Russians attempted on Thursday just might work in some future assault. When the Russian Army's 5th Motor Rifle Brigade hurled 18 armored vehicles, a Porcupine tank, and 17 infantry fighting vehicles in the direction of the fortress city of Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine on Monday, they brought along at least one very strange IFV. Weird and ugly, the vehicle is nevertheless part of a potentially effective approach. Yes, the Russians are losing a lot of troops and vehicles in their new wave of mechanized assaults targeting Ukrainian positions around Pokrovsk, one of the last urban strongpoints between multiple Russian field armies and the twin cities of Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. No, that doesn't mean the Russians are losing. In fact, they may soon notch some significant gains. On Monday, drones and artillery from the Ukrainian 79th Air Assault Brigade blew up that 5th Motor Rifle Brigade tank and 12 of the attacking IFVs just east of Mirnohrad and killed about 100 occupiers, according to the brigade. The remnants of the enemy units retreated, suffering significant losses. But the defeat belies a sound strategy. Sending in tanks and IFVs in large numbers for the first time in many months, instead of relying on footborne infantry and motorcycle troops, the Russians risk expending their last major reserves of armored vehicles. But they also stand to advance along several axes in eastern Ukraine. That's because the vehicles can carry infantry across the wide, drone-patrolled no man's land, safely depositing at least some of the troops in new positions before Ukraine's drones overwhelm the vehicles, and many but sometimes not all of the infantry. Russian troops that make it into cover will often lie low and await successive waves to follow until a critical mass of troops have entered the defensive positions, at which point they will rush to the defender, Jack Watling and Nick Reynolds wrote in a February study for the Royal United Services Institute in London. Vehicular assaults are definitely being faster in terms of advance and capturing the territory. Ukrainian drone operator Kriegsforscher noted as he and other operators fly sortie after sortie blasting approaching Russian vehicles. It's unclear exactly what the 5th Motor Rifle Brigade up-armored vehicle was. A Ukrainian first-person view drone captured imagery of the odd vehicle in the moments before striking it. Analysts scrutinized the image in a vain effort to identify the machine with its AD-1 anti-drone armor.